Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alan's Music Room. My name's Alan. I bet you're shocked to learn that. And I have a very special guest with me tonight. This is Mr. Hughes Taylor. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Alan. How are you?
It is. I'm great. It is nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
I want to do a quick shout out to a recent acquaintance of mine, Shannon Marie. She is in Atlanta. She's a local big music fan, loves live music, loves going to shows, and she sort of put me in touch with Hughes and said, "This is a guy that you should get on your show." She runs a website called Layla Promotions, where she goes to local shows and reviews bands, and great website, and you should visit it. It's Layla, spelled just like the song, Layla Promotions. So thanks for introducing the two of us.
Yes, thank you very much, Shannon.
All right, so do me a big favor and tell us a little bit about who Hughes Taylor is and how such a young guy got so connected to the blues.
Huh. Well, I am. I'm just a blues player at heart. I have been since I really kind of picked up the guitar. So I started really early on. I was introduced to the guitar by my uncle. I was around, I guess, 6 or 7 is when I first picked it up. He showed me how to hold it. He showed me how to fret the notes and things. And I nothing beyond that, but I at least had the foundation for it.
Mm.
And when I wanted to really get serious about playing, it was when I was around 11 or 12 years old. We would go and see a family friend who played he had a standing weekly gig at this place called the Shamrock in Macon. And I told him that I wanted to really learn to play, not just the couple riffs that I knew. And he said, "Well, let's then learn your chords first." And on a cocktail napkin, I don't have one right now, but just a he drew a G chord chart for me. Taught me how to read it. And this is in the middle of his set. He took like maybe 2 minutes to show me real quick. This is how you read the chart. Go home with this, and then next week come back. And he gave me another one the next week, and it was I learned G the first time, and the first chord, and then my second one was D, and the third one was C, and then E minor. And he said those 4 chords will kind of help you pretty much get a foundation for most things, I mean it's all history from there. Once I was comfortable enough changing chords, it took me a few months from that first night. He brought me on stage with him, and I had my very first performance with a guitar, and from then I said, "This is what I'm going to do." So,
Wow. So you were on stage performing at a pretty young age.
Yes, if you want to count it, it's not truly a stage.
Well,
Yes, no.
were you in front? Were you in front of people?
I was in front of people with a guitar.
There you go.
So
Anything
yes.
can be a stage.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's basically how I got started. And then once my mom got lessons. She paid for lessons and stuff for me, and I pretty much only took maybe a month's worth of lessons. It was towards the end of my 6th grade year, and at the end of 6th grade, I moved to North Carolina. So I was there for a year and didn't keep the lessons up. So I was self-taught from there on. And but I took lessons from Chris Kreider at Bid Music in Macon. And the most valuable thing that he taught me was, besides there's no need to cuss in music, was that the pentatonic scale. He taught me
Oh
the
yes, yeah.
pentatonic scale, and he said because I didn't know that I was wanting to play the blues, but that was like where I guess he saw me, whatever, and so he just said, "Yep, learn your minor pentatonic scale, and you'll be set." So that was probably the most valuable thing I got from my lessons, and yeah, self-taught from there. It was about was 8th grade, I guess, was when I really, really kind of started to focus on uh, genres.
Hmm.
Because before then, it was just kind of I was playing any song that I heard, right? So like, I learned the basic riffs to like all the like I already knew Smoke on the Water and Sunshine of Your Love. My uncle taught me those main ones, right? And then I started to learn all the other things, so like Inner Sandman and
Hmm.
Iron Man and all the other things that you learn on guitar when you first go. And then when I was around 8th grade, towards the end of 7th grade, 8th grade, my dad's friend Tap is what everybody called him Tap. He introduced me to Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Leonard Skinner. But those three things, he introduced me to that. He gave me box sets of, I
Hmm.
mean, like every possible thing that you could find on Leonard Skinner and Stevie Ray Vaughan. He gave those two things to me, and he gave me I have it right here. It's a you can't see it in the thing, but he gave me my very first LP. It's Slow Hand was the very first LP I ever had, and I thought that was awesome. And he gave me some DVD concerts of Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Oh,
and so
wow.
I just kind of we're in the Southern rock thing, and then of course Allman Brothers being from
Mm.
Macon, that was a big influence. But
Oh, yeah, yeah.
when I started to like really kind of hone in on, oh, this is good, this is classic guitar rock, like where Sunshine of Your Love came from was Cream and Eric Clapton, and listen to the other stuff that he has and all this. And that just, from there, that was where I knew where my home was in the blues, and the early Allman Brothers stuff, and that just, those DVD concerts though, Stevie Ray Vaughan live in Montreal, those
Yeah,
really, really changed my course.
I have that. I have that. It is amazing.
It's just awesome. And then later I got my hands on El Camino, which is
Hmm.
not El Camino, El Macambo. Sorry, El Camino is a Black Keys album. Um, yeah, the Steve Ray Vaughan live at the El Macambo is probably to this day my favorite live performance ever. And
Wow.
just so good. I listened to it. I ripped the music off the DVD and just listened to it nonstop. But
Hmm.
that, yeah. So thanks to Tap and that was a big part of it.
So I am a good bit older than you. I grew up back in the 70s, and every kid who picked up the guitar at that time in 6th grade, 7th grade, whatever, the first thing they learned was Smoke on the Water.
Mhm.
So it's funny that, this far down the road, that's one of the things that you first learned.
Yep, there was that and Sunshine of Your Love, the first two songs I ever learned.
That's awesome.
My uncle Brian taught me, and that's all I knew. So anytime every time I went over to his house, I'd pick up the guitar and just play those riffs over
Right.
and over and over. And yeah, it got to the point that my mom was like, "Teach him something else." But,
So before you got introduced to Stevie Ray and Clapton and these guys, what music were you listening to as a kid, just getting into guitar?
oh, do I have to say?
You don't have to, but
I'm
it
just
it would
so
be interesting.
really, what's the thing that sparked my interest in music in general. So elementary school, all I listened to was I basically didn't know other music existed outside of what was popular for 9-year-olds.
Right.
I didn't know anything else existed. And I can remember, I don't remember the day, but I can remember to this day, the first time I was like, everything else just kind of was like, as a kid, you kind of go, that's old people music, or you hear
Right.
the sound and you're kind of like, that's not what my friends are listening to. So
Right.
I didn't pay any attention to it. And I can remember the first time that my ears perked up and I was like, wait a minute, this is really cool. Was my Dad and I were driving in the car. Had to have been around 6th grade. It was right around the time I started getting interested, but right before the spark of like I want to play guitar was right in the car. Freebird came on, and I don't know that I had actually heard it yet, and so we're listening to it. Came on the radio, and he loved the song. He turned it up, and I
Of
was like,
course.
this is a slow, it's a slow song, but I was like, this is not bad. I like this.
Yeah.
And then that solo kicks in.
Yeah.
They start speeding up, and I remember looking at him, and I said, "Is this the same song?" And he said, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Whoa!" And the song went on, for the full 9 or so minutes, and I looked at him again. I said, "Is this still the same song?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Gosh, this is so long." He said, "Well, there's an even longer version."
Right.
So he showed me that, and so he introduced me to like just besides it just being on in the car, he actually introduced me to this genre of Southern rock, and I was like, "This is cool." And so then I started paying attention to what was on the radio. It was a classic rock station in Macon. It was 106.3 is the main classic rock station down there. And so, so we would just listen. Yeah, I finally started to pay attention. I wouldn't just be in the car, and I'd start asking him. And I remember asking him sometimes. I'd be like, "Wait a minute, who is this?" And he'd go, "Who do you think it is?" And I don't know. I know it, but I don't know. And he said, "This is Zeppelin." I said, "This is also Zeppelin? But they sound totally different in the last song." And he said, "Yeah, that's what's so cool about them. They have all these different sounds and stuff." And I mean, I remember those car rides, him taking us to school, talking about the like. I finally started paying attention, and then I went to Keith, who played at the Shamrock. He's the guy who taught me my chords, and we would watch him, and he would play the songs that I heard on the radio, and I would recognize them. I'd say, "Wait a minute, that's one of those cool rock songs," and it was finally, so this went on for about a year or so, between 5th and 6th grade, and then towards the end of 6th grade I went up to Keith and I said, "I want to play guitar, and I really want to do it." And that, I mean, so a lot of things kind of culminated, but that was my introduction to music, and it started with Leonard Skinner and Freebird, and then I started paying attention to just what was on the radio, and the different stuff that my dad had. But yeah, that was it.
It's funny that that experience you had with Freebird, I had exactly that same experience with "Do You Feel Like We Do" by Frampton.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember because on when it was a top 40 hit, they sort of contracted it down to 3.5 minutes or whatever.
Right.
And I remember the first time I ever heard that full live performance, which is 12 or whatever minutes, and I was like, "Holy smokes, is this the same song?" And I was just mesmerized by it.
Yeah,
that was one of my like origin. Like I'd listened to the radio and stuff, but that was really where music started to become like a force, like an actual living thing.
Yeah, that was it. I remember after that whole this is music Freebird thing. That was another one of the songs that my dad had in his collection and played. Like, so it was that and a live version of "Wonderful Tonight," and I guess it was a lot of live stuff he had. But yeah, that was that same feeling. That's another one of those songs. Like, man, I didn't know music could, a song could be more than 3 minutes. This is
right.
And now now my favorite band in the world is Pink Floyd. It actually took me a lot longer to get into Pink Floyd than anything else. But
I had the same experience. I really didn't. I mean, I heard them like ad nauseum on classic radio and stuff like that, and I just never really got into them. It took a long time for me to really, get into that whole vibe.
Yeah, that yeah, and like Echoes is one of my favorite songs, and it's 22.5 minutes.
Right. I listen to I love Yes, and I listen to an awful lot of Yes, and they have some long compositions, 25-ish minutes and stuff, and I have had that experience where my partner is like, "Is this the same song?" But his is more like I mean, is this the same song? You know, a
Oh
little more
yeah.
drudgery than inspiration.
Gosh, is this still going? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So as you learn more guitar and you play more and stuff, when do you actually start getting the songwriting bug?
Mm, I it had to have been after seventh grade because I don't remember anything before that. But I mean, maybe there was. But when I came back to Macon uh, in my eighth grade year, so I just turned 13 or 14, something like that. I was 13, I think. I met up with friends, so I had made a couple friends my sixth grade year, and then I moved away. When I came back, I reacquainted with them, and it just so happened they all picked up an instrument, and and so when we came back, we all were like, okay, let's start a band. It was my friend Nick Landon and Draven Rozier, who he picked up bass, and we kind of like just it was very coincidental. It was not planned at all.
Hmm.
Came back and hey man, so how you been? Yeah, well, I picked up the guitar. I was like, really, me too. And of course, because we both played the same thing starting out. You know, everybody first learned Smoke on the Water and all the other stuff. So we all
Yeah.
the same. Like, yeah, I know that one too. And it was around that time when I thought when I first thought about playing with anyone else that maybe we should like write a song. So I started writing my own stuff, and I actually started with blues. I started writing my own blues songs, and and I'm sure that there's video somewhere of me recording myself playing. If my dad is watching, I'm sure he has the videos that I'm talking about, because I do remember setting something up and being like, okay, I'm going to try and remember this one, and but it was yeah, it was so it had to have been around 14, somewhere in there, and I remember as it was my 14th birthday, I asked my parents for money so that I could buy a recording station,
Oh,
like
wow.
recording equipment. So that was when it was, because I had this music that I wanted to record. That's right, and it was
Wow.
I'm gonna pull this out real quick. It was this right here. Yeah, I had an American. It was either I think it was an AMS catalog, and I was going through and I saw this, and I thought, this would be perfect because it can be as a computer, record in your computer and also by itself. And I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna use, and I used this on every album or on my first three albums. I used this, and
Wow.
so from when I was 14 until I was, uh, geez, I guess I got my new stuff, my new one. Actually, I got the upgraded version of this one 4 years ago or something. So I had this forever, and I still love it. But yeah, so I asked my parents to have money, and I bought this whole kit. Came with that, and it came with a condenser mic, and it came with two little speakers that I still have set up just as casual listening speakers. But it was this entire recording kit thing that came super cheap. Because if you look at the catalog now, the same thing just by itself is as much, if not more, than that thing. So it must have just come out or something.
Mm.
But yeah, and I think that was my 14th birthday,
Wow.
and so I started recording things, just anything that
Yeah.
I thought of, and man, I have not thought about that in a long time. I mean, I use this. I used to use this thing all the time, but didn't
Well,
know when it got it.
yeah, it turned out to be a good investment.
Absolutely, yeah.
Man, that's great. So, okay, you mentioned your first album, which is Hear My Melody,
Yes.
which came out in 2016. Talk
Yes.
about the lead up to actually putting together your first album, and what is the oldest song from a songwriting point of view? What's the oldest song that made it on the record?
So I have to kind of correct myself a little bit. Hear My Melody, I do consider my first album. It's my
Okay.
first full-length LP album.
Right.
But I did a basement project that I released in 2014 called Stuff, and it was an EP. There's only 5 songs on it that were fairly short, so it wasn't anything major, but it was that was my first attempt at an album. So I'll kind of go over that a little bit and then go into Hear My Melody, which I
There
consider.
you go.
I did. I had a bunch of things recording from when I was 14, and then all the way up and through high school. I didn't actually commit to any specific thing until I tried starting a band. So I had my very first band ever called JCR, and that was with Nick Landon, who I told you about, played guitar. Draven Rozier played bass, and when we went to high school, the 2 middle schools in our county converged, and we joined up with a drummer from the other school. So we always made fun that he was the odd one out, but we started our first band, and I kept wanting so bad. I was like, we have to write. It was like, we're just gonna do cover songs. We're not trying to be a big thing. And I'm like, no, I want to write. I want to be a band that writes and records and things. And so no one else really had that bug. So it was this big dramatic deal in 9th grade. I was like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna do a solo thing, and it was so lame that I'm saying this out loud. As I'm saying this, like, it's so dumb. But so anyway, I was like, so I had all this music that I wanted to write and record, and I did a really short thing with Draven. Draven was like, yeah, I could do something. So we got together and we started the Taylor Rozier Band, and it was he, myself, and my friend Steven Taylor, who played bass, but also he played every instrument. So he was originally a bass player, but he was an incredibly good drummer, and he he ended up playing guitar for a band in later years. But so he played everything, and we needed a drummer, so he was like, yeah, I'll play drums. So Draven and I, the first time I remember sitting down with somebody and like actually recording, setting up the mics to record the drums, and setting up, getting the bass out, all those things, besides recording in my bedroom. That was my first thing. And we did this all instrumental thing called, we ended up calling Speechless, because there were no words on it.
Nice title.
I remember, oh my God, all these memories you're just bringing back to me now, Stan. I hadn't thought about this in years. I'm going to have to send this to my friend Draven and remember some of this stuff. But we did this thing, just all instrumental stuff. And I remember actually giving a copy of it, printing it off and giving it to my teacher, who at the time expressed interest that, her students were making music. She's like, yeah, I'd listen to it. And I remember we did the longest thing on it was a instrumental of Voodoo Child. And I remember her coming the next day. I asked her what she thought, and she said, well, I was kind of stuck in my car, stuck in traffic, listening to it. I kept thinking, I just want to kill myself. And I was like, oh, well, that is not something I want to hear. So apparently it wasn't very good. But oh man. So
wow, way to be encouraging, Teach.
That was my very first attempt of recording other musicians and stuff. And then I took that knowledge and recorded actual songs that I wrote, put lyrics to, and kind of arranged a certain way. Still trio type stuff, but the first time that I was like, okay, these are songs that we can play live, and they have words, and they could be actual songs. That was Stuff. And that I pretty much, whoever I could get at the time to come play drums on this one song while we're recording, because it took forever to set the mics up and all this stuff. So we couldn't record but maybe one song a day, and everybody at school, so it'd have to be after school and after all the practices and all that stuff. And then so it ended up being weeks before we got everything tracked. But that was man, Draven played a little bit on that. A friend, Jesse, played a little bit on that. Hank Pittman played, I think, drums on that. And that was my first time, like taking my music that I not just random improvisations, but my actual music that I wanted to record, overdubbing things, making it, trying to put a little effort into it, and I wanted it to sound like the old Jimi Hendrix, like basically the Hendrix's first album, that Are You Experienced sound, where it just kind of feels like it's not sloppy and it's not underproduced, but it also feels very live. It feels very like it's thought out, but not it's just rough enough, you know. And I was like, I want to do that. And so I'm not gonna focus on all the things that come with, people always talking about you need compression. I'm like, I don't know what compression is. I'm not gonna worry about that. We're just gonna do this, and I'm gonna mix it like this how I want to. And it was rough, man. But we actually, you can still listen to Play, which is the first song on that one on Spotify. I took everything else down, but we still play live. We play, and we
Mhm.
play I Got a Feeling, were the two songs that we did on that I still play to this day on that. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that was 2014, so I was not, I think I had, like, just before I turned 18. I was in yeah, it was the last semester of my first semester, sorry, of high school. Last semester of high school. That's what it was. I had to think about how old I am. Um, but yeah, that was my very first attempt at producing something and putting it out to the public
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
hear. We made, like, I think in total to this day, I've probably made $25 on the room from it. So, but I made CDs. We printed off our own CDs and stuff. And actually, I'm trying to see. I keep looking to see if I have the original uh, cover that I did. I took a little cocktail napkin and I put a coffee stain on it, and then I wrote stuff on it.
Nice.
And then I scanned it, and then I yellowed it up, and I edited it online. But it was yeah, that was, man, that was a fun time. My first time, I was like, I think I can do something. And then Hear My Melody, I was in college, and I had started working on it. I had started working on it right before my freshman year of college. Well, actually, it was I had done dual enrollment in high school, so I was pretty far ahead in college when I got there. But my first year at UNG, I had already started working on it. Had a handful of the songs, or ideas at least, that I wanted to do. I had kind of started recording some of the certain guitar parts and things like that. And then I met my wife, Evie. She wasn't my wife at the time, obviously, but I met her. And then the album just kind of, like, it was about 2015 when I really started, like, okay, I'm gonna write an album, I'm gonna finish it, we're gonna release it next year. And Evie was a big inspiration on a couple of almost all the songs, because I didn't have the rest of it, before. And that was something I put, where stuff was, okay, we're gonna do something that feels really rough and live, and we're just gonna put it out there. Hear My Melody was like, no, I am going to make sure every EQ is exactly where it needs to be, and I'm going to make sure everything in the stereo space is exactly where I want it. And I was so meticulous about where I wanted everything, and then I ended up it ended up not being that, but that was my intent. I was like, I'm going to do it, and gosh, I put so many hours into that album. And the one song that I did not put all these hours into, that I had this sort of, okay, we're gonna play. I'm gonna do it in one take, or get the track in one take, even if it takes a couple tries. But one track, one take on all the instruments and just put it out, which shook my world. And I almost didn't even put it on the album. But I thought, I like this one. This is it's a blues song. It's about Evie, and I wanted it for myself. So I just put it on the end of the album. I thought nobody's gonna listen to it. They'll probably skip it. It's 9 minutes of really slow, clean blues guitar mostly, and it ended up just taking off, and it is the most streamed of all of my music ever. And it's still to this day gets way more traction than any of the new stuff, anything newer. It's got like over 150,000 streams on Spotify. Collectively, it had, I think, close to 2 million views on YouTube. There were different channels that took the song and made their own videos to it, and I don't know where it is now, but yeah, so all that work I put on the rest of the album,
right?
It's like, this is gonna be, and it was shook my world that did it. So.
It's funny how many established artists have the same story, where something like an album is finished, they need one more thing, they just throw something on it last minute, and that's the thing that just goes bananas.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've got so much stuff that I want to ask you about.
I'm sorry, I'm just rambling. Please tell me to stop talking, and I'll...
No, that's why you're here, to talk. Okay. But I want to talk about this past year. Yeah. Almost a year a year and 2 weeks, I guess it is, of everything being locked down because of COVID. And it's not a topic I usually like bringing up on shows like this, because I just feel like it's the go-to thing to talk about, and everyone's sick of hearing about it. And I am too. But in your case, I'm looking over your website, and I was looking over your performance list, and you've remained very, very active during this whole thing. And, and I really want to hear about that, because that's not the experience that a lot of bands and a lot of performers have had. So, you're in a pretty fortunate position.
Yeah, I absolutely don't for a second take it for granted, because I am so grateful that I have been able to play like I have. So we had 3 solid months of nothing when quarantine first started in March, all the way. So the rest of March, all of April, pretty much all of May, and then half of June. There was nothing, just like the whole world, right?
Right.
But I am so fortunate and just so grateful that the area that I live in, we have a lot of outdoor open air wineries, where they don't even have indoor music anyway. If if it rains, you're canceled, and it's been like that forever. So it's just one of those things that I just got extremely lucky in that I wasn't quite big enough with my band that we were done for because all the big venues were done. But I'm also I'm just got enough of a demand that these wineries were looking for solo acts and things, and they some of them sought me out, and I was able to find other connections to play at others, and so it was it just was such a fortunate chain of events that I was able to continue to play. And I had this I couldn't do anything with a band, but for a long time, but to be able to play anywhere was just so great. I had an amazing revelation last year that it was the first time I played live after not playing for the 3 months. The first time I played live, it was actually with a friend, Jesse Albright, who it was just she, myself, and she had a bass player, Rusty, and we set up 6 feet apart on the stage outdoor, and we played to a drive-in concert. And,
oh, cool. Yeah.
And in this open air, but social distance. It was great, and I had this revelation, like this is what I was supposed to do. You know, when I was 12, I had a similar revelation that, you know, this is what I want to do, but you know, to make money or whatever it is, I want to do something with music. I knew it had to do with music, and then, you know, when I turned 14, I thought, well, maybe if performing doesn't pan out, I can write songs. And then when I started to make my own, like record and mix and all that stuff, even though it was terrible, and my teacher said she didn't like wanted to do things, I still thought, you know, well, maybe mixing or recording or something like that, something to do with music is what I wanted to do. And last year, it was just this like super crystal clear. No, I'm gonna perform. That's what I'm supposed to do. And it just, I was so fortunate that I was able to do that. You know, because I mean, I still have not seen my UK touring band, the Hughes Taylor band pre-COVID. I have not seen them since March 13th.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
2020.
Yeah.
We can talk, we've Zoomed and stuff, and we've collaborated on music, but we haven't actually seen each other in person. And
Yeah.
it's
It's amazing.
One of those things.
You know, it's interesting when people go through this kind of, you know, situation where everything that you know changes. One of the things that they turn to, and one of the things that sort of grounds them and brings them comfort, is music. And I'm really, really impressed with the way that so many people in the music industry have like embraced this sort of like new platform, you know, of taking music online, you know, doing drive-in concerts and things like that. And I'm so thrilled with the way that the music, at least performers, maybe not the music industry so much, but performers have really adapted to finding new ways to reach audiences. So good stuff.
Yes.
Going into your second album.
Yes.
What was the difference? I mean, you have the experience of doing your EP and then your first album. How did all of that teach you what to do with your second album?
The second album was songwriting wise, really was a lot smoother. It was a lot easier to just, you know, Evie and I were very serious about to be. I was getting ready to ask her to marry me and all this, and I, you know, she was a big inspiration for everything that I do, but specifically Restless was just something I just kind of came so easy. Versus Hear My Melody, where I struggled a little bit because I, first off, was not confident in my songwriting, and still wasn't during Restless. But you know, the artist on Hear My Melody was the first time I ever thought, like, it was a poem first, and then I put it to music. Everything else was just, I kind of just put words in where it felt like there should be words, but otherwise I didn't care about the lyrics as much. Restless was a very different approach. Restless was a combination of the two. I really wanted to kind of focus on songwriting a little more, and I still wasn't very confident in it, but Restless kind of became a better outlet for my songwriting, like my music, wanting to actually make something with a certain intent, you know, if that makes sense. And the difference, I had kind of a better go-to band when it came to actually record it. I had a go-to band that Selena Corbin played drums on a lot of it. Nate Lee, my UK touring bassist, he was over all the time playing a lot of the bass parts, and it just kind of felt a little bit easier to do. I feel like I'm having a hard time explaining it, just because it just kind of came easier. I think it also kind of helped. I was not in my grandparents' basement for this one, for Restless, whereas with Hear My Melody I was. and because of that, I could record or mix or write or do whatever at all hours of the night type thing. And that, I guess, helped. I was able to just kind of really focus on it. And I still had school, but um, yeah, I guess that's the main difference. And I also was becoming more confident in my recording skills too, my mixing and things. I collaborated a lot, and I didn't mention this before, and I should have. Sean Williams was a huge part of why Hear My Melody was even finished. Sean Williams is the son of Keith Williams, interestingly, who taught me the guitar. But so we've been very close with the family for years. But Sean, I sent him for Hear My Melody. I kind of got to a point where like I wanted everything a very specific way. Like I was telling you, I wanted to, except for Shook My World. I was so sure of how I wanted everything to sound. And then when I got to a point that I thought, okay, I'm done, I sent it to Sean, and Sean remixed a few things. He suggested some things. We kind of co-mixed it, but I eventually, when he sent me back what he did, I thought, oh, this is way better, and so despite all of the hours I put into every song, meticulously wanting it to sound a certain way, send it to him, and then in like a day he sends it back to me and it sounds different but better. I'm like, okay. So I gave him pretty much everything and he mixed most of it. Whereas Restless, I felt a lot more confident in what I was doing. So even though we did a very similar thing where I sent him things and we kind of co-mixed it together, there were several songs that I said, no, I want my mix on this, and I want it to sound like this. And so, and that helped boost my confidence even more, is when I was able to like come to Sean, who I still hold in the highest regard. I go to him. I just sent something to him 2 days ago saying, hey, can you make this better? But he's still my go-to guy, but Restless, I kind of felt a little more confident in what I was doing. And so after we kind of collaborated a little bit and I said, no, I like these mixes better, I kind of felt even more confident taking the reins on like Good Blues Fast, where I did everything and I just sent it to Sean to master.
Yeah.
And so that was a really big boost to my confidence. Restless was both in my songwriting and my recording techniques. I did a few different things recording wise, like putting different types of mics on the amp and making it sound, getting different sounds that I wanted. That was a big boost in my confidence as a songwriter. And then yeah.
Well, talking about songwriting, and I think you may have sort of answered this already in talking about what we were talking about in the second album. When you approach songwriting, is it riff first? Is it lyric first? And I think you may have already said that it's not lyric first, except for in one case. So what's your approach to how a song gets formed?
So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. For Hear My Melody, it was 100% riff first and then put in the lyrics, except for the one song. Restless was different. I had some ideas and things. If I had an idea, I would write it down. But for the most part, it also was riff first. Interestingly, 2 of the songs kind of came to me either when I was about to fall asleep or when I woke up from a dream. And that was Wake Me and After a Dream. Both of those just happened.
Yeah.
Lyrically, in those interesting situations. But now, over the past 3 years since Restless, 4 years. How old is Restless? 18. So 3 years. Yeah, 3 years since Restless came out. I have my songwriting is now. I record any idea that I have guitar wise, or I mean, even if I have access to a piano or something, any idea. And I also will write any sort of lyric idea that I have in a book. And I always have a book on me. And so now it's a combination of the two much more than it ever was before. So sometimes it's lyrics first, and then I kind of develop maybe this is a cool melody for that, and then incorporate that into chords of a song. More often than not, though, it still is guitar first because that's my thing. I
Yeah.
pick up just to play, and then I come up with a thing. For this new album, we actually wrote a song on stage live, and ever since then, every time we play this venue, which we play once a month at the Blue Coyote, actually, I designate at least 5 minutes of our stage time to doing something new. And it always starts with a drum beat. So I tell my drummer, I said, just give me anything. Just give me anything. And then we develop, I do like a guitar riff or something, whatever's in my head from the drum beat. And then my bassist will come in, and then we do a song right there. The lyrics are usually nonsense. Sometimes because making melodies and things like that.
Yeah.
But I will hit record on my phone. We do this thing, and then I have that, and that's how I wrote "Treat Me Right" from the new album. And we just played there Friday, and I have a new thing that I want to put some. I have some ideas that I want to do for it.
Wow.
So that's another approach that I'm going to start doing a little bit more often because it seems to work a little easier.
That's really, really cool. I thought that I would get to this a lot earlier than now, but I want to play this this clip that you sent me. Set this up a little bit. What's the song and where was this recorded?
So we played one of the biggest shows we've had over a year at Mad Life in Woodstock, and this clip is Mad Life has several cameras that they record each show and stuff, and you can buy it packaging and whatnot.
Yes,
if you like what you do, and we hadn't had that big of a show in a long time, so I was like, let's get it, So
absolutely.
This is Just One Night. This is like 3 songs in, I think. We usually will start our set with 3 very upbeat type songs, and then I'll kind of break down what's going on afterwards. But this is Just One Night from Mad Life. One night.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, the lighting that on that stage is just incredible, and
yeah,
it's just we cannot wait to get back to that venue.
One thing we haven't talked about, we talked about guitar playing and songwriting, but what was your development as a vocalist?
Oh man. Well, and I'm going to try and be brief. I realize that I rambled a lot.
It is perfectly fine.
I'm not even paying attention to what time it is. I just so I'll be quick. I have never considered myself a singer. When I came back and I wanted to join this band, we started a band and all that stuff, we literally were at a point like, I'm not singing. You got to sing. I'm not singing. We all did. And it was one of these things that nobody else would do it.
Right.
And it kind of was a combination of I don't want to sing, but I also don't want to play some of the songs that they're thinking about playing. Like they wanting to do some of the more modern things like Blink-182 and Green Day and these things that I was wanting to do, you know,
Yeah.
Moonshine of Your Love and Crossroads and Texas Flood and all these things. So I was like, okay, so if I want to play the songs that I like to play, I'm gonna have to step up as singer. Otherwise, they'll do it. And if I'm singing, I can say, oh no, we can't do that one. I can't sing it. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is the main reason why I accepted the role as singer in this first band. Never wanted to be like a singer. I was always a guitar player. But when I wanted to start doing my own music, again, it's like, well, I'm either going to have to start another band and find a singer who's willing to sing my stuff, or just do it myself. And I have recording stuff, so I'll just do it myself. So that was what I did with Stuff. And again, I've never liked my vocals, but I've done them because the song needs vocals. So it kind of just developed into this thing. I started playing live, and obviously there are some people that do amazing playing just music by themselves, just guitar and putting together instrumental type things. But to play at a restaurant for 3 hours, on average, most people want to hear songs that have words and singing and all that stuff. So I started practicing. I've always been terrible at lyrics too. Like I can never remember lyrics. Can't even remember my own lyrics. I mean, I played a show last night. I've played these songs for the past 12 years now, and I still forgot the lyrics to things that I've been playing forever. So it's one of those things that I've never liked it, but have done it out of necessity. And it wasn't until I met Evie. Her dad is a singer, and he's an amazing singer. He's got this really powerful, very very similar along the lines of the Scorpions singer. I can't think of his name, but very much in that same Scorpions Journey Foreigner sort of sound.
Wow.
And he's just got this awesome voice, and Evie was like, why don't you ask him for some tips? And so I did, and he taught me. He didn't necessarily teach me things. He just kind of gave me his warm-up routine and things to do to help warm your voice up and to practice a little more. And I recorded, so I did hear my melody without that. And then within 6 months of doing this routine, this is when I asked him about it, and he gave me this routine and stuff. My live performances, you listen to the recordings of them, are so much better than what I actually have on this CD. And then Restless came around, and I thought, okay, I'm going to really try and be a singer, and really work on it and sing. And it's still not where I would have wanted it, and still not where I want it now. But I kind of have only in the past 2 years accepted that, okay, I'm going to be a singer as well as a guitar player. I'm not just a guitar player. If I want to be an artist, I need to be able to sing my own stuff. And so I've really put a lot more effort into it. Steve Ivey, I've been keeping in close contact with, gave me some really good advice recently. He said that, my priorities are backwards. He said that my priorities, when he saw me live, are very clear that I care very much more about the guitar and the guitar tone than I do the performance, than I do the singing, than I do the songwriting. It's clear that it goes in that order: guitar, performance, vocals, songwriting.
Interesting.
I want to be successful in my industry, be a popular artist, not just playing the blues clubs. He said, you need to completely reverse your priorities. You need to develop songs and really work on your songwriting, and then you need to be able to sing those almost as importantly as having a good song. You need to be able to sing it. So those two should be your top priority, and then focus on your performance, and then have a good guitar tone. Because the average person who goes to a show is going to be like, wow, it's an interesting song. It's cool guitar solo, but but if it's a solid song they can sing along to, then that's their main focus. And then, wow, he's got a great voice. I love these words, and then that was a cool guitar solo. It's always the last thing, you know. Yeah, as musicians, and you know, it's different. But he pointed that out to me, that when he came and he was with his wife, I was doing these things on the guitar that I've been practicing forever, and he said, "I noticed you were doing these things on the guitar that I'm sure you were practicing forever." But my wife had no idea what you were doing, and probably couldn't have cared less that you were doing these things. She cared about the song, because that's what, you know, that's what the general public tends to focus on. And you know, I took that advice to heart. And this album, I have completely tried to reverse my priorities. And
That's a tough thing to hear and to accept. You know, it's a complete change of mindset from being a guitarist to being an all-around artist, and to make the guitar the least of the priorities. That's a lot. That's a lot to hear.
It is, but you know, it really is sound advice. If I can just try and get my vocals up to the point of where my guitar playing is, if I'm as confident in it. Not that I think it'll ever be as good, or I don't mean for that to sound pretentious at all, but
no, it doesn't.
But what I'm getting at is, you know, I get that. I get that, you know, when people go to a show, or they listen to a CD, or they listen to a song or something, the vocals are the thing. That's the thing you sing along to.
Yeah.
You know, my brain is wired differently, as most guitar players are. But when I listen to Smoke on the Water, I actually never knew the words to that song until I actually started singing it. I only cared ba da 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 da. Actually, the whole guitar solo.
Yep.
I have no idea what he's saying.
Yep.
I don't care. So that's just how my brain's always worked. So it's hard to put that, you know, into perspective like that. But very sound advice. I took it to heart, and I can't wait to share the new stuff with him and everybody else that I've been working on.
Well, let me tell you, we are out of time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It sucks because I have about 34 more questions that I would ask you. So you will have to come on again at some point.
Okay.
Awesome. So
right.
I thoroughly enjoyed this hour, and I really appreciate you taking time to hang out and chat. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I ran your time out.
No. I love hearing this kind of stuff. I love, I mean, I like to have a show where the person I'm talking to is chatty and has stories to tell, because that's what makes it interesting. I mean, I don't do this to hear me talk.
Right. Right.
So well, I really appreciate you sharing all your stories and your history with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed this.
Cool. Well, we will do it again at some point.
Yes, sir.
Because we haven't talked about your UK tour. We haven't talked about the live album. We haven't there's so much stuff that we haven't even got to yet. So we'll have to do it again very soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Take care, man. Have a great night. Right. And
thank you so
to
much.
the audience, thank you all so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. And we will see you next Sunday. Next Sunday, I've got a couple of my buddies, Rob Levy and J.M. Tuffley, and we are going to be doing a whole series of top fives. So we will see you next Sunday at 8.
Cool.
Everybody have a great night and spread love.